the debate this evening. So is everybody ready for a good debate here?
Yes.
All right, I've got a list of questions that have been provided to me from the Tea Party that they've already gone through and selected. And so the rules of the debate tonight are, we're going to start off with an introduction. Each of the candidates gets 2 minutes to give their introduction. And we'll just go down the line, starting with Mr. Carbone. And then at the end of that, then we'll start in with the questions. I'll read off the question. We'll go down the line, 2 minutes to answer a question. The same question will be answered by each of the candidates. We'll alternate who starts at each new question. If they mention any of the other candidates directly, that other candidate will have an opportunity to give a rebuttal, and they'll be provided 1 minute for that rebuttal. After we complete all of the questions, we'll have 2 minutes of a closing statement from each of the candidates in the same order. Gentlemen, you guys all ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're going to start the timer at 2 minutes. Mr. Carbone, if you go ahead and give us your introduction, please.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for all being here, and thanks to the Tea Party for putting this together. Representative Michael Carbone, your district rep for LD 25, first session legislator. Been here, it will be a decade now in Arizona. I love the state. I have a beautiful wife, 4 beautiful children, and now I have a grandbaby. As I say, he's our first generation Arizonan we produced. Business guy, come back when I was out east. I worked in both the public-private sector. I worked in finance, construction, real estate. Here I've been working consulting with school districts, specifically in towns, and now I'm here as a legislator with doing a small business as well. Gosh, it's been a long day. I've been here. But it's my first year, I'll just say, as a legislator. It's a lot to learn, a lot to take in. We were just at the border this past week, working down here with our folks in ag, working on water, working on whether it's housing, on those issues for our district. And, I'll be honest, going in 2 years ago, we thought the difference was going to be, we had a different governor. I thought my job would be a lot easier than it is now. And frankly, we need good people who know how to govern. I learned how to do that. We don't have a lot of folks that know how, and doesn't mean they're not good. It just needs, I think I had a little upgrade on the scale to get that done. But I believe I did a great job my first session. I've represented. I think I demonstrated I was a fighter, and I am a fighter, and I will fight for this district. So I want to thank you, and I look forward to the debate.
Okay, and on to our next candidate.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. It really means a lot to see how many people care about their election process and how many people really care about their county, about their state, and about our nation. My name is Nick Cupper. I just retired from the Air Force. This is cutting it. Sorry. There we go. So my name is Nick Cupper. I just retired from the Air Force after 20 years. I retired September 1st. I grew up in a small farm town, Cresswell, Oregon. There it is. When I was 18 years old when I joined the Air Force, so I'm 39 now. At 19, I married my beautiful wife, Crystal, who's sitting right here in the red with the blue handkerchief. We have 4 wonderful children. We have 3 biological and 1 adopted. We've always cared very much about serving, whether it was serving in the military or whether it was serving orphanages, orphans, things like that. And God led us one day to adopt our daughter, Guyana. Because of her disabilities is actually why the Air Force sent us to Luke Air Force Base for my final duty station. And within a month of moving to Arizona, we knew that at retirement, this is where we were going to stay. I've never done anything very political other than voting. Being in the military, you can't even be a PC anywhere. You can't do a lot of things. But it's something that I've always cared about. I've cared about who is going to lead our country and where they're going to lead it. Like I mentioned, I have 4 children. I care very much about the world that they're going to end up having. And so that's a huge reason why I'm running for this office. There's 2 seats, obviously, so 2 of the 4 of us will end up getting in there. And I'm not somebody special. This isn't the Nick Cupper show. I'm just somebody who really cares about my state and about my country. and I know God put me in a position to make a difference, and that's what I hope to do. Thank you for all being here.
Okay, our third and final candidate.
My name is, my first debate, that must be a rigged job here. My name is Steve Markegard. I'm not the typical candidate. I'm from Seattle, Washington, and I moved here as a legal immigrant. The first time I came here from Seattle, I was about 12 years ago. I had two brothers that are snowbirds. And the first time I came here, I fell in love with this state. It's absolutely the opposite of Washington State. It's in the desert, and it doesn't rain, and I love it. I grew up in Seattle, and I was the youngest of four boys. I graduated from high school, and I didn't know what I was going to do. It was right at the end of the Vietnam War. I did not get drafted, and I was going to join the Navy, and my two brothers that were just got home from Vietnam, they said, don't go in. And I didn't do that. So I stayed out, and I did some community college, and then I got into the trades, building trades. I'm a construction worker by trade. I worked all over from Oregon, Washington, Alaska, Prudhoe Bay. I worked on commercial, industrial, and marine projects. I did that for about 10 years, and then I had my own business. I started a business from one person, myself. 5 years later, I had 15 people working for me. Then I merged my company into another company. So I ran several companies, I've sold companies, and I have a business background. I know people, and I care about people. This country is in trouble. It needs strong leadership.
That's for sure.
Strong leadership. I'm a conservative, and I am a constitutionalist, and I want to be your voice in our capital. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you for the introductions, gentlemen. And now we are on to the first round of questions here. So, as I said earlier, we'll start with Mr. Carbone. You've got 2 minutes. And the question that you've got is, how are you funding your campaign?
How am I funding my campaign? Well, I haven't been able to do that for the last, since January, because when you're in session, you're not allowed to fundraise outside of private donors, which so I've raised a few dollars from the private donors this last couple of weeks, but outside of that, I had a balance from last session or last cycle between donors, and I'm not going to be afraid to say it because I am true, and some are lobbyists, but that's not a bad thing. And we have to remember, and let me define the lobbyists, because a lot of people, even I thought, you go in there and you're like, oh, lobbyist, that's a voodoo word. Remember, anyone that gets up there is going to get money from a lobbyist, because they're there just to educate and they're paying for access. Doesn't mean you support them or go with what they do. That's it. So I'll always give access, just like I give access to the Democrats. I don't think that's a bad thing. Some people might think that's a bad thing. That's the problem with politics. I don't agree with my wife all the time, and I know some of us in here probably don't, but if you're smart as those guys, you'll side with them. But my point is, that's my money, but it's tough. The disadvantage that you have is when you're in session, you can't raise money publicly, or you can do it privately, but then you got to find time. You got to have life balance. I coach baseball, I coach basketball for my son. And now he's playing right now as we speak. He has 4 or 5 games a week, and he's going to Flagstaff. So, but I'm going to just add that because it's not easy. But the thing is, once we get out of session, though, I will be fundraising. I'll be making those phone calls and raising the money. It's a long-winded answer.
Thank you very much. Same question, Mr. Cupper.
So I believe in very straightforward answers. I'm not doing a clean elections run. What I'm doing is getting individual contributions. I have about 40 different individual contributions from friends and family. As you can imagine, traveling the world, I haven't got to set roots down anywhere. So long-term friends sometimes don't exist in the military, but the ones I do have been very generous to me and helped me out. A lot of smaller donations. I've had a couple family members give me $1,000 or $2,000, and then I've had 1 or 2 of my friends give me between $100 or $500 each. And every single dollar means the world to me. You know, I don't come from money. I'm a blue collar guy. I was an electrician in the Air Force. Was what I did the vast majority of my career. As you can imagine, it doesn't really pay that well. It doesn't pay bad, but it's not something where I can, you know, do a Michael Bloomberg from New York and fund millions of dollars to my little campaign here. So it's a lot of phone calls, a lot of reaching out. I have had a single PAC donate to me. It was the Realtors PAC. Like I said, I'm about brutal honesty. I let them know when I very first met with them that if they give me any money, it just means they believe in me. It doesn't mean I'm going to owe them anything. You know, if those of you who don't know, the quick and dirty about this, about how I'm not able to be bought is, during the Air Force COVID DOD mandate for the vaccine, I told them no. They tried to kick me out. They gave me separation papers to kick me out, and I still said no, knowing that they were going to take away my, thank you. Knowing that they would have taken away my retirement, and knowing that they would have taken away my medical, which for my daughter in a wheelchair is the biggest thing to me. But it didn't matter. What matters is what's right. So if I'm not going to let the military buy me for a couple $1 million in retirement over my lifetime and medical for my daughter, I'm not going to let somebody's, you know, small check buy me either. You know, steak dinner is not going to buy me off. So.
Okay, same question, Mr. Markegard.
I'm the only one in this race that's a clean elections candidate. Clean elections candidate gets punitive fines, civil fines, traffic fines from the state. And the only way you get that money is you have to collect 240 $5 contributions from individuals within your precinct that are Republican voters. And it's all documented. I do not like asking for money. If I couldn't have been a clean elections candidate, I would have dropped out of this race because I don't like to be owned by someone else. And everybody that runs an election is getting money, period. Whether it's a $5 or $210 contribution, or $5,000 contribution from the retail association, it doesn't matter. You still have to have money to run a campaign. And it has to be, it's all audited. And that's why I chose to be a clean election candidate. And it's not easy. Even Republicans, when you knock on their door and you ask them to give you a $5 bill to go out and try to be a candidate, it's not easy. And the only way I did it is through organization, to be able to get out and have people hit the ground doing that for you and making sure all those signatures are valid. That is leadership, and I will do that for you if I am your representative. Thank you.
Okay, this round the question is going to start off with Mr. Cupper. And the question is, what are your income streams?
Well, that's a good one. Thanks for asking. I'm glad you did. So my income streams, I have a pension from the Air Force, and you know, ideally I'll get that for another 40 plus years unless I die early. I get a deal. I get disability. I'm actually, I don't look it, probably I look like a very young man. I'm much older internally than I look on the outside. But the military can hurt you a bit, so I'm 90% disabled, so I get a disability pension from that. I work part-time as a paralegal for lawyers who are seeking back pay for all the service members who weren't lucky enough, like me, to get to retire after the COVID fight. So about 8,600 service members did get kicked out, and another 60,000 were actually coerced out. So what we do is we fight to get them their money and all their back pay and everything they deserve that they worked for. And my wife, she works, she's a freelance journalist. So she's a phenomenal writer, makes me look completely pathetic, which isn't hard. I'm not very good at it. But that's all my income streams. I think last year I worked part-time as a referee for a weekend, as a referee for an American Ninja Warrior type event. I used to compete on that show before I broke myself. And so I still have some friends in that community. That's all my money. It's not a whole lot.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Markegard, same question.
What was the question again?
What are your income streams?
Well, I'm retired, for one. Draw Social Security. I'm 70 years old. Last month I turned 70, so I'm the oldest guy here. And I still have a lot of fire in my belly. I have a small pension that I have from the construction trades industry that I retired from. And I also work part-time for a company here, a mechanical insulation company that is out of Chandler. And I knew this young man when we worked for a larger firm back 20 years ago. So I'm basically retired. I don't sit around a lot, I don't sleep a lot, so that's probably another reason I got into this race, is I like being busy, and I'm passionate about that. I think that when you don't do something, keep your mind active and be active within the community. Now I don't have to go out and work. I can do what I want to do, and I'm passionate about our country. Our country is going down the Jawa. We don't have people in this. America has lost its patriotism. It's lost its way. When I first came to Arizona, I couldn't believe 12 years ago how different it was from Washington State. It's becoming Washington State, Oregon, and California. We need strong leadership to stop the train on the tracks. We have to be prudent about growth. Growth is wonderful, but we need to slow it down, and we need to do wise things, and we have to be tough to do that. And I will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carbone, same question.
Thank you. Well, I came here 10 years ago to get away from Illinois, and I think that's all I got to say about that, and obviously for the quality of life. Before I took this job and stepped down, I was the CFO for Paradise Valley. Everyone familiar with PV? A lot of money there. It's a pretty cush job. Because I believe in my calling, and I believe in why I was called to do it. I moved here to get out of politics. I mean that with sincerity. That's the long story, but the short of it is I moved here for that, and here I am. But I had the support of my wife, my children, when we made that decision. So I do consult on the side. I am trying to start up a couple businesses with my family. But my wife's a state director for several districts for very life skill behavioral. It's a private school. So I have the opportunity, and obviously I get a great income here, if that's what you're running it for. So I gave up a very good job, not to get bought off. I'm a man of my integrity. I ran on two things my grandfather taught me, that's who raised me. You have your name and you have your reputation. That's two things, and I stand by that. I mean that. And I lived by that these last 2 years, and they know it up at the Capitol, because I ran to show how you get things done. And that's to govern, which we are losing. And you can govern with strong conservative principles, and I've done that. So, outside of my 14-year-old who has a lemonade stand, and that's just a joke, he does not. But there was a I call it the lemonade stand bill, which some folks wanted to tax it for little kids. But no, I am grateful to be here. I am a hard worker. I am not doing this for money. I am not doing it to get bought off. Not that anyone's ever insinuated that. The point is, I'm a man of who I say I am. I tell it how it is. Thank you.
Okay, this next question, we're going to start off with Mr. Markegard. What qualifies you to represent Yuma in the state legislature? What qualifies you to represent Yuma in the state legislature?
Leadership qualities. I know pressure. When you own a business, there's the biggest thing of pressure is when you have to make payroll for 50 people, and you've got accounts receivable of $500,000 and you only got $50,000 in the bank and you still have to make payroll. That's pressure. And you don't cave on that. You go out and you collect the money for the people that owe it to you. I don't see things in the same view as most people in politics. I'm not a politician. I will lead with leadership, common sense, and principles. I cannot be bought. I'm retired. I'm not looking for another 2 years, 4 years, 6 years. I'm too old to be a career politician. I'm doing this to make a difference. Politicians look out for the next election. I believe I'm a patriot, even though I didn't serve in the service. Patriots are looking out for the next generation. There's a lot of talk about being bought as a politician, and I don't think anyone at this table is being bought. I think these are both good men. And we have the right mindset to lead in this state. But we have Democrats and the leftists that want to take our country and ruin it. I do not stand for woke ideology. I believe parent choice. I believe in close the borders and send these people back from where they came from. And I'm passionate about that. I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in Second Amendment rights. I love this country, and I will lead it in that fashion. Thank you very much.
Mr. Carbone, the same question.
Yes, thank you. What qualifies me? Well, I think I passed the first test by getting elected the first time. But that doesn't mean I earned it this time. I'm going to tell you why I earned it. We're the second largest district in the state, second largest ag district in the state. We got three main things. We got border, we got ag in our community, and we got a small town community, which is where I'm familiar with that, and I'm from that. I love this community, number one. I tell everybody when I come down here, and everyone says at this state, whether they live here, they're part of the district or not, everyone knows Yuma up at the Capitol. That's pretty cool. But I can reinforce that. I've proven that I've fought. We just had a big border thing here this past week. We're down here for 2 days. It's not my first time. And it's humbling, but I did have people got a hold of a speech, and it's out there, and that's great. But that's the point. That's who I am. I had nothing to prove to anybody. I know I don't talk a lot. I like to work behind the scenes. That's why I get things done. I love small town politics because I get them. I love produce. I love agriculture because I grew up around it. My family was in it. And this border, that's a whole different game. It's a different animal. But you have to understand our border. It's just not about immigration. It's about what's happening and about taking care of Yuma when it comes to the border, because there's folks that come over here to work here. You have to understand that, and I understand that. I learned that by getting educated and coming down here all the time, the last two and a half years now. And I will continue to come down here. It ain't easy. And it's not easy missing. Sometimes I gotta miss a baseball game, but my family understands it, and I'm here to serve y'all. And I will represent you equally, equitably like I do up north. Just because I don't live here. This is a strong community, small town community. I don't have to preach to you to tell you that, but I recognize it and I appreciate it because the job isn't the best. And so when you get the love, you take advantage of it, and I get it. Been here all day today, and I just really appreciate when people, they show how much they appreciate us up there. Because it's tough. And anyone who wants to go up there and give up the family and stuff, that's great. But then you recognize you're there to serve and why you're there to serve. So I recognize that. And the key thing is, and I will say it again, because it's the number one thing I learned up there, that's to govern. It is not easy. You have to take those tough punches sometimes, but you have to represent or remember that we represent a whole community. And what's important in that community, you have to fight for it too. Thank you.
So I mentioned this earlier, I grew up in a small farming community. I'm not going to pretend to say I know what every single one of you needs, because I'm not you, you're you, right? My job is as your representative, is not to pretend like I'm going to be the smartest person in the room. My job is to listen to you and understand what your actual needs are, and not just tell you what your needs are. I have reason I'll be able to serve Yuma properly is because I've already served our country for the past 20 years. This is not a fun hobby for me. Serving our country, running for this office, these aren't actually fun things. There's moments of fun, but it's something you do when you believe it's what God has for you. God has given me a lot of blessings. He's given me and my family a lot of blessings. And we don't take that lightly. We don't think, well, this is ours to keep for ourselves and keep to ourselves and not help anybody else out. When God puts you in a position where you can do something positive, you have the responsibility to do it. I come down here every single week. I've seen Mr. Gilbert many times coming down here. I've talked with almost every group, I think, down here. And I've made it very clear to everyone I speak with, I don't care if it's 2 or 3 of you. If you want me to come down and talk to you, I will make the time to come down and talk to you, because When I represent LD 25, when I represent this district, it's not just representing the small part of Surprise I live in. It's not just representing Buckeye. It's not just representing you. It's representing all of it. I have to make sure that I'm here to represent you and listen to you. As a representative, our job is to make the wisest decision we can, but we can't make the wisest decision unless we're listening to you. Actually listening, not just pretending to hear you. So what makes me available to do that is my background as a military man, as my background coming from this type of community, and my background as someone who honestly listens and wants to act upon what you need. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my apologies, I'm sorry.
I
I
don't
lost
get
my
to talk
for a
again, I
second.
want to talk.
If you want to answer again. I'm sorry, we're going to start with Mr. Carbo this time around. Thank you for keeping me in check over here. Okay, regarding Arizona's water rights, do you have any legislative ideas to resolve conflicting claims?
Conflicting claims. Listen, I'm not gonna come here and tell you I understand water, it's tough. We talked about this morning, I was with the produce folks. What I do is understand we do a good job, we're efficient with it. We have bills out there specific to conflict with Queen Creek and Buckeye. There was a moratorium put on where we have some water issues. There's bills put forward through the House and Senate that we will get signed, supported, and hopefully signed by the governor. But what I'll talk about on water is, and this is probably where my business background and understanding with development and housing comes from, is there's a development called Build to Rents, and they're these little small homes, about 640 square foot, called Build to Rents, if anyone's familiar with them, and they're building them all up in Maricopa County. And they're really for corporate, I call them greedy corporate developers, because they're putting 24 of these units on 1 acre of land. Okay, 640 square foot, they charge about $1,800 to $2,200 for a unit. They use our water, more water, abuse it where our farmers are fishing, right? They put more pressure on our school systems because more kids now are in that plot of land. Put more pressure on our police because you have more, just like other types of developments, you have more pressure on the police because you can have more phone calls on domestic issues. And then they bring in less tax dollars, property tax dollars. Okay? But you could put 1,200 square foot homes on there, not big homes, small starter homes. The ones my first home was 1,000 square foot. You go on there, less water, more property tax for the agencies, for the local agencies, less pressure on the schools, and now we got the best school system in the country. You got 4 models in that. Less pressure off the police and more tax dollars. So here's the thing, and I said this when I ran, I don't know water, but what I do know is I will go to the folks that do know, and I told them again that this morning. There's generational knowledge and institutional knowledge here from our farmers. They've been here for a very long time, so they have it. They're the experts. I know where to go if I have to go. And then you can go to your cities and towns, but I will always stick with those first. And of course, I'm going to go to the best Representative Dunn, not to put him on the spot, but it's truth, and Gail Griffin and Senator Kerr. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cupper, same question.
So I'm not going to try to speak out of turn and pretend like I know what every water conflict is in the state. I've heard of some, I understand some. I understand that there is quite a bit of argument here and there about making sure we're not robbing Peter to pay Paul as far as trying to take away from ag to try to give to these developers. We have enough water in this state to take care of what we need, but we can't be stealing from one sector to give to another. So I completely believe that what Yuma has, Yuma needs to be able to keep and not be giving it to someone else, not give it to California for sure, not give it to foreign entities, none of that. As Rep. Carbone said, one of the things I was going to point out is I know Representative Dunn, soon to be Senator Dunn, is an expert on water as far as the legislature goes. Everyone I've talked to has spoken extremely highly of him. You know, he is someone I want to be able to pick his brain. I want to make sure I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel, right? So we passed a bill recently, I believe, to get to use the 600 million acre feet of brackish water that we have under our feet here in Arizona. if we were to use only that, which that's not gonna happen, of course, right? But if we were to use only that at the rate that Arizona already uses water, that would give us 80 years of water alone. You know, we have plenty of water here, we just need to be fair and equitable and not, like I said, robbing Peter to pay Paul to do that. As I mentioned before, you know, I will not pretend to be the expert on everything. There's gonna be certain things where I'm gonna have an expertise in. Each one of us has some level of expertise in something. We all have our own fields. We all have things that we've lived and learned. Water is not something I'm an expert on. I won't pretend to be that, but I know to go to the experts. I know to go to the stakeholders. Just like I mentioned earlier, I'm happy to listen. I'm very happy to learn and then make the wisest decisions to make sure who actually the water belongs to as far as resolving conflict. As an aircraft electrician, when something goes wrong, you don't just put a Band-Aid fix on it. That's how you kill a pilot, right? What you do is you find the root cause of it, and I like the root cause.
Thank you. Mr. Markingard, same question for you, sir.
Thank you. Well, where I come from, there's lots of water. And there's not a lot of water here, and I'm not trying to be funny. What I do see here is in 2020, the Inflation Reduction Act that Joe Biden put out, Mark Kelly gave away, I think it's 10 to 15% of our water out of the Colorado River. Michael should know that one. I want that water back. California, the state next to us, does not do any water reclamation out of their rivers the way they should be doing. We have to point fingers at the people that are wasting a lot of water that could be recouped. In Washington State, they have an environmental building that does a water reclaim system on it, and I actually worked on this project, and I was going, this is nuts. In Washington, we're trying to reclaim water. All the roofs on 303, these tilt-ups, acres of roofs, why aren't we reclaiming some of that water to do at minimum flush toilets and do irrigation around the buildings? There's the flood building, I'm not sure if I know which one it is it's called, but they have, in Arizona, they've just done that there. They take the water off the roofs and the carports where they have solar panels on it, and they're reclaiming that water. I know it's a small, minuscule thing, but it's something. And we need to start being more resourceful that way. And it's not just saying you can't build. We have to build, we have to have houses. Mike's completely right. But we gotta be a little bit smarter and be a little bit more innovative. But these tilt-ups are a huge source of water because it's just running off and going into the parking lots and going down to waste. So I think we need to be a little bit smarter and innovative and creative and think of others outside the box. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Cupper, this one's a lengthy one, so give me a little time to read it off for you guys. Hoping I only have to read it once. Okay. We are seeing a population growth in Arizona, thus bringing a lot of interest in Arizona state laws and policies, including people moving from California, illegals, and outside of the state influencers and lobbyists. Illegals potentially asking for rights they have not earned. Outside interests trying to influence or change Arizona laws already on the books. Given these facts, what actions are you, as our Yuma County House Representative in LD 25, going to do to protect our rights as citizens in Arizona?
That is a mouthful. I'll try to get this in 2 minutes. All right, so let me try to take a few of these as we go. The illegals, of course, is a massive issue. Starting off, I am a very strong constitutional conservative. I have two loyalties. One is to God and one is to the Constitution. I believe the government is meant to be small. I believe the government, and I know that our government, both state and federal, was created to protect our freedoms, not to pervert them. You know, we joined together for the common defense, not for the common control. I don't believe it is the government's role to try to control your day-to-day life, and I do believe it is their role to protect freedoms from these outside influences. It is not not our position to give anyone who comes here illegally any benefits or any rights along those lines. These are for our citizens. That's where they belong. Anything that comes through the legislature that tries to give rights or give benefits to illegals, I'm gonna go against, 100% oppose it. Any outside interest who's coming in here and trying to change the way that if we have something good going on and they're trying to change that, I'm not okay with that. I will listen to somebody. They want to tell me their side of the story. I will listen. I would be a fool not to listen to all of you. I'd be a fool not to listen to someone who wants to if I have the time to listen to them. That being said, if it goes against the Arizona Constitution, if it goes against the US Constitution, or if it goes against God, it's not going to be for me. That's basic. That's how all of us should be. You know, we, in my opinion, I think we oftentimes do far too much with our government. We try to push through far too many bills. That's not the role. I think there's a reason that we've gone past a 100-day legislature every session for years now, because we're trying to do way more than what we're commanded to do. Our biggest thing is to pass our budget and protect your freedoms, and that's what I intend to do.
Mr. Markegard, same question for you, sir.
Thank you. If you come here illegally, we're going to remove you and send you back from where you came from, whether it's Washington State, California, the border. You do not deserve our benefits from our taxpayers. We do not owe illegal aliens, people that have invaded this state or this country, anything other than a trip back home. We don't want them voting. We don't want them here. They do not belong here. And if that's not compassion, I'm sorry. I guess I'm not a compassionate person. If you're an illegal person, you don't belong in our state, you do not belong in our country. There are legal ways of coming here, period. Our Constitution, it's in the Constitution. We aren't following our own laws that keep illegal people from coming here. We have to get back to basics. We're not trying to recreate the wheel like Joe Biden is doing. He wants to let 5,000 in a week or 5,000 a month or whatever he's doing. It's not what we want. We have to think about our own country. We have to think about the safety of our people. All of these people coming across this border, they're bringing drugs, sex trafficking, human trafficking, slavery. In our country, slavery. We've got to stop it. As a legislator, I will push nothing short of stopping this insanity that's coming into our country. We have to get back to basics. I'm a proud American. I worked a 40-year plus career, and I retired, and I'm seeing things that I never could have imagined. Up is down, down is up. We've got to get back to basics. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carbone?
Okay. Well, there is an invasion within our own states, like California, as you said, from the border. We have, as I said, when I ran for office, I hope the outcome would be different with our governor. We have a different governor there. We have a different attorney general there, not enforcing the laws, not executing the laws, just like we have in Washington, D.C. So what can we do as legislators? It's been tough. This session alone, we ran 47 bills to the governor, and I think all 47 were billed or vetoed that were dealt with the border. We just did an HCR that everyone heard this past week, Tuesday. We passed out of the House to go to the unit of the ballot and make an initiative to vote for. And I'm not going to get into the whole length of the bill, but it does talk about one thing, which is HCR, which is Texas law. It's going to the U.S. Constitution to find out if it'll work. And what it does, look it. We are a country of laws. Those folks are coming through our border through ports of entry. There's over 10 million that I just found out that have come over. 2 million gotaways. What this bill will do, as a legislator, as we passed, allows our authorities, our police, our state troopers, our sheriffs, to arrest in pursuit if there's a crime. As much as that sounds milquetoasty, that's the law. That's the U.S. Constitution. We have to be that sensitive. But it gives them teeth now. Now we can prosecute. We can go after people who are doing drugs. We have lost over 300,000 people in 3.5 years, just to one poison, fentanyl, 300,000. And I said this the other day. I was in Israel, learned about their border. They lost 1,200 people in one day. And it is sad. It was violent. But there's violence here. I saw it. I've heard it. Just as I said the other day, I learned about the rape tree. That's horrific. And we are allowing this. I think all of us on this panel, all of us in this room, all of us in this, as Americans, will fight to do everything we can. But we can only do what our legislators are allowed. We only have a majority of +1 in the House and Senate. We have to take back this year all the positions that we can to bring back the power to the people.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to start with Mr. Markegard this time. If you could cut items out of the current state budget, what would you cut?
Well, running a business, I start looking at every branch. The first thing I cut is Katie Hobbs' budget. One thing, what's the first thing she did? She started opening up new divisions. She's got some new climate czar or something going on. There's always money to cut somewhere. Our government is on a spending spree that we all would just love to get a little bit of a piece of it, wouldn't we? We've got to start cutting things in it, and it's not the police department. It's not education. We need to start allocating money in different ways. I actually believe that you can cut on every department somewhat. There's always something there that can be cut. I think our government and even the states, I know the state of Washington, they just raise taxes. And that, I believe the legislature here has done a good job. They haven't allowed that. And they're in a fight with Katie Hobbs right now on her budget. But there's always money somewhere where you can cut it. You don't have to keep adding and taking and giving more to the government. You know, if the government, just like Ronald Reagan said, the government comes and knocks on your door and they say, I'm here to help you, that's not a good visitor. We have to be able to cut and not add all the time. It's just common sense. And it might sound too simple, but you still got to be able to do it. You can't just keep adding and moving it around. You have to cut money. We all are. Hey, look at inflation. Are we better off than we were 5 years ago? No, we're not. So what do? We give more benefits to people like the illegals. We give benefits, they're taken from our civic stuff, schools. We just have to just cut back, period.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Carbone, same question for you, sir.
Well, we are the lowest tax state in the country that taxes state income tax, 2.5%. There's six other states that are 0%. But we're ranked 3rd in the country when it comes to tax based on livable or cost of living. So I think that's important to note. But where can we make cuts? You know, I'm actually working on looking at access and healthcare and stuff like that. Not to make cuts, because I look for inefficiencies. Being a business guy, starting out making my bones back in 2008 on the school board, that first 6 months I created a finance committee for a $52 million budget on the school board and went line by line, because I said in 2008, you're asking everybody to make, you know, I always called it Pizza Friday. We had to give up Pizza Friday, so I'd go to frozen pizzas on Friday with my kids. And my board thought I was nuts, but I was serious. Because I knew what everybody in the community was going through with the high taxes. But we went line by line, and here's the point. We went and we found efficiencies, and we found 15 cents on the dollar. When I worked here in this state with these school districts I work for, or the cities in PV, whether it's Wickenburg, where I worked up there, I found pennies on the dollar. I am trying to do that. It's not easy in 2 years. It's a big budget. I've been, since March or February this year, I meet once a week with my policy folks to go line by line with our budget. We're looking at things. And the first thing we're looking at is health care, and I've also looked at education. Education is not to make cuts, but I found efficiencies. There's over $500 million or $500 sitting there, or $500 million, I'm sorry. $500 million sitting there. That's efficiency. It's not being spent. The same goes for healthcare. There is so much, and I don't want to call it fraud, but inefficiency. We know it. I ran an unemployment indexing bill this year to help lower the unemployment with the costs that are taxed to our small business owners. It didn't go anywhere because it was held up, but another story. But the point is, I'm looking at it, and there's ways and means to do it. I'm a business guy, I'm a finance guy, and I know how to do it, and I'll get it done.
Thank you. Mr. Cumber, same question.
The first thing I would cut is anything from our illustrious governor's woke or DEI policies. That needs to go. And anything that's in there that gives her any leash at all has to go. Whether they want to call it gender affirming care, which is a lie. You know, if we're trying to mutilate children, if there's anything talking of healthcare, it's not healthcare. Specifically, any funding that goes to murdering babies. I do not believe in state, federal, any funding like that to go toward abortion. If someone, thank you. Obviously, to a certain point, it is legal in this state right now, which I have my disagreements there. But it is not something that the state should be paying for. If the state's going to pay for anything, it should be to make sure that these women can feel actually cared for and be able to care for their babies instead of murdering their babies. Beyond those more specific things, I agree with Representative Carbone about efficiencies. In 20 years in the military, you can imagine the inefficient spending I saw. Every September, at the end of the fiscal year, the amount of TVs we bought because, we have to spend the money. Or the $10,000 toilet seat I saw, or all these other things. I told you before, I believe in getting down to the root cause of things and digging in. I agree with going with a fine-tooth comb. It's not the fun or sexy answer. It's not a Band-Aid answer, but it's the right thing. It's the right thing if you put us there to go through line by line and really take the time to find out where there are efficiencies. I won't say fraud per se because it was legally passed as the budget was legally passed, but inefficiencies and things that we should not be spending X amount of dollars on. We need to actually take the time, do the job right, and not blow smoke your way and tell you that, I'm going to fix it in one term. That's not how it is. I'm not going to lie to you. You're better than that.
Okay, Mr. Carbone. What will you do to protect our Second Amendment rights when the federal government moves to take them away?
Are you videoing this?
There's the camera.
No. Can you repeat that question? What will I do when they come and try to take our rights away, or guns?
Essentially, yes. What will you do to protect our Second Amendment rights when the federal government moves to take them away?
That's a trick question. I don't know. Gosh. I moved here for guns. I moved here because I love my guns. I own guns. My son back there, he makes them in the 3D printer. I don't know if I can say that. That's why I asked. But no, the point is, we are allowed to rise up to a tyrannical government, and once they come to take those, I think we'll all rise up. Okay. Without our guns, we have nothing. I have my adopted father. He's from Sweden. He said he always told me as a kid, you know why Hitler didn't go into Sweden? Because we were all armed. Yeah. True story. I remember that as a little kid, a little boy, and we should be willing to die for it, and I will. I mean that. I said it when I ran last time. Someone asked me a question about guns, and I said I will fight for them, and I will die for them. Thank you.
Mr. Cumber, same question for you, sir.
I think it's extremely clear in the Constitution, shall not be infringed. That's all we really need to know from that. I spent the 20 years in the military already putting my life on the line to keep your gun rights. And it's, the Second Amendment is more than just guns. It's knives. It's other arms. Arms means more than weapon. Knife. It's more than guns. But I'm a proud gun owner. My son is a proud gun owner. My wife is. I'm getting there, babe. She wants me to make sure I let everyone know she likes guns. But, It's the reason it's our Second Amendment, right? We have the First Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom of religion. Then they thought, hey, the Second Amendment has to come in because we have to protect that, right? And how do you protect it? We've already fought off the Toronto government once. I'm prepared to do it again. I really hope we don't have to. But 4 times in my career, my original enlistment and my 3 re-enlistments, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And most of my career, most of my career was spent defending it against foreign enemies, but we sure have a lot of domestic ones at this point.
That's right.
And I am prepared to defend my rights against any domestic enemy and all of your rights. Like I said, I've done it my entire adult life. Going into this legislature is not going to stop that now. If they, let's say they pass whatever unconstitutional law they want to pass, I truly believe that courage is contagious, and saying no is what you do. You say no, and if they want to physically come for it, they're going to have one hell of a fight on their hands. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Markegard.
Thank you. I'm sitting here listening to these guys, and there's not going to be any disagreement on this at all. I'm looking at that flag back there, "Don't tread on me." I had one on my flagpole with the American flagpole, and my HOA told me I had to take it down. That's where we're at in this country. It offends people. Well, my freedoms are always going to be defended. My freedom to protect your right to speak, the First Amendment, the Second Amendment. I challenge these guys, who's got more bullets and more guns in their safes than I do. We have to protect ourselves from foreign and domestic, but right now I am more concerned about our own government and where it's going. Look at the persecution of our President Trump. I've never seen anything like it. None of us has ever have, and I can't believe it's happening in our country. Our Constitution is bulletproof. We have to stand by it. We have to believe it. We have to read it, know it. I've taken multiple Constitution classes. We are very fortunate in this country to have that. It can't be taken away. It can't be infringed. We have rights, and we have to stand for those rights. Thank you.
Okay, this time we're going to start off with Mr. Cupper. How important are ESAs, empowerment scholarship accounts, to Arizona's school children?
ESAs are phenomenal. All 4 of my children use ESA, to include my adopted daughter who's in a wheelchair. We would not be able to properly take care of our daughter the best way that we see fit without the ESA program. Parents should sacrifice for their children. And you know, when we were stationed in New Jersey, as you can imagine, is a bit of a liberal place, we were definitely outnumbered, but we've always sent our children to the schools that we believe are best for them, and there the best place was a private school. Now, New Jersey taxes people a lot more than Arizona does, and our property taxes on a smaller home were about $10,000 a year. We had to go without a lot of things to spend the $2,000+ a month to send our children. This is with massive discounts from the school. They were very great to us. But to send our 4 children to private school to make sure that they could get the proper Christian education we wanted for them, the proper non-woke education we wanted. When we moved here to Arizona, it was such a relief to see that they cared about children and they cared about the parents. The dollars should follow the children. You know, I will never, ever vote to get rid of the ESAs. I wholeheartedly am for them. In fact, when I first moved here, knowing within the first month that we were going to stay here forever and live here forever, I wanted to start setting roots down. Being military, you know, moving all over 20 years, I never got to set roots down anywhere. And so I joined on to the ESA Parent Advisory Commission. I was one of only 2 men in the entire state on that. All the rest were women. And I understand, you know, women tend to be more involved in schools than men, but men need to step up and take up that mantle as well. I was happy to serve my year there and do what I could for the ESA program and keep it as great as it is, and eventually usher it into the universal program that it is now, because originally we only got it because we were military. So yeah, I will oppose anything that tries to get rid of the ESAs. It is a godsend for our family.
Mr. Barkeeper, same question for you, sir.
Well, I'm not gonna disagree with Nick on that at all. Arizona should be very proud of the ESA program because they're pretty much the founders of it. And other states are trying to follow their path. We must not forget that the public schools still keep the money that is allowed to them, about $9,000 of it. So it's just, Hobbs wants to tell us that it's ruining the school system. It's not. We have to have parental rights. And if the schools aren't fitting our children, we should have the right to move them. We should have the right. It's parental rights, not state rights, not federal rights. Our children must be educated. We also need to be, there needs to be more oversight on what these kids are being taught in school. I've been looking at some of the rates, how we're falling off the national charts on the education, the quality of education, how the kids are being taught and how much they're learning and not learning. Arizona, I think, is in the bottom of the national ratings. Not in the bottom, I think they're kind of in the middle. We should be in the top. We should be the best. I think our state should always strive to be the best, the smartest, the most innovative. There's some of these trade schools that's going on. What's the name of it? You guys didn't know it? It's West Meck.
We're down here studying.
Amazing, amazing. We need to have more people going into the trades. There's so much work here, and we're not filling the positions. A lot of jobs are coming here, better paying jobs, and that's all good stuff. But the ESA program is the way to go. We need to have parental choice, parental rights, and the parents should have a choice of where they go to school and how they're taught. Thank you.
Well, ESAs, that's why I ran 2 years ago, because I took the one vote out. One man that took one vote that killed ESAs, came back and voted because he knew he was gonna lose, but I've been fighting for school choice for almost 15 plus years, going back to the east when I was out there. I am passionate, I love education, I don't sit on committee for education because I didn't want to, but I said I will help, and people up there know that I will be a fighter when it comes to that. I am the one that's at the Capitol always telling my members, when we talk about districts or charters, we're talking about ESAs in the same conversation because it's equal, it's equitable, and we have homeschools. We have 4 models in this state. It's the best in the country. We're proud of that. We lead in so many areas. We do. We lead in produce down here. We lead in education. We have states all across the country following us now, our lead. That's why I love this state. That's why I ran. I will fight for that like I had back in Illinois, which is the highest homeschool population in the country, with the highest paid teachers in the country. What does that tell you? My son's been, and when ESAs did pass, I was able to, it was nice because I took a pay cut, but he had already been in private school, getting his religion taught to him, and now he's going to a Christian high school there because of ESAs. That's awesome. I am proud. I will fight. I don't think I need to defend that. I think all of us in here understand it. This is what will bring our country back. To unindoctrinate our kids, to give the rights back to the parents, because they know what's best. That's what ESAs do. That's why we lead. In all these other states, it will follow suit. And you will see the migration is occurring. The kids are coming back. The parents are taking control. I walked this year versus 2 years ago when I was walking in the precincts up north. No one talked about ESAs or transgender or anything. I hear so many people now are homeschooling. It's amazing, and they're talking about the things that they don't like anymore. So I think we're all going to be on the same page on that. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna start with Mr. Markegard on this one. Will you work by the federal government to establish a central bank digital currency?
That's scary stuff there. Why, absolutely. I mean, I like my dollar bills. You know, I like how I fold them. I don't know where this is going to go, and I will fight to keep our current currency the way it is in any fashion. And as a state representative, I don't think that's a little bit above our pay grade. And I think the train's on the track, and I don't know where it's gonna go. The United Nations, they want a one world government, and the way we're getting so weak here, we have to get back our power, our might. We have to be energy independent. We cannot be going down this path that we're at. We gotta start using multiple energy sources. I'm shocked of how gas is not in every one of these new developments. We should have multiple energy sources. We're relying on electricity too much. We're setting ourselves up for failure. The electric car, the EVs, it's a hoax. It all kind of goes back to the currency. If they make us weak enough, they're going to take our dollar away. If they make us weak enough, they will control us. We will be controlled by the United Nations. And I will fight like hell to not let that happen. We have to get back to being independent on our energy. We have the jewel of the desert up in Palo Verde. We could have a nuclear power plant on every corner in this state. That is a feat up there. That is a beautiful thing. And it just sits there. And we've got all of these solar plants all over. What do? They kill our desert. That's what they do.
Absolutely. Will you work to nullify any attempts by the federal government to establish a central bank digital currency?
Okay, exactly. Thank you. Gosh, I think it was this last summer, they did, in July or August, the federal government did something, and it's already to the point of Steve, they're already on train and are on the tracks moving. It's a complicated subject. I know I saw quite a bit of cryptocurrency type of stuff. I'm very cautious, concerned, but the thing is, we have the green back. We got rid of the gold back, right? The backing of the gold back in the 70s under Carter. Now there might be some type of momentum to move this and go into the future to try to make digital currency. You know, it's not as, look, I don't like it. I know that the bad stuff about it, I can't see the good when I weigh it out, pros and cons, because that's how I look. When I don't understand something, I'll do a root analysis. And I've talked with folks and lobbyists and that to try to get educated. Now I'm still not comfortable. And what does it mean? It's kind of like AI. What does AI mean? We don't know. And I can talk about that if there's a question about it, but the thing is, cryptocurrency is a little bit different because it will go global. It will be about control. That's what my guts start to tell me. That's how I feel. And if you want to talk about efficiencies, yeah, I guess it's efficient, but it's a hell of a lot of corruption that will come with it, and we all know that. And so as Americans, we have $1, one greenback. Let's stick with that. It's keep it simple. Otherwise, let's not complicate these things. We have credit cards for crying out loud. Those are our digital currency. Thank you.
Mr. Pepper.
I like to answer questions straight on, so yes, I will work to nullify anything the federal government does when it comes to a central bank digital currency. You know, in the Air Force, I've traveled to 30 different countries, 30 plus different countries. I've seen these countries that are socialists. I've seen them firsthand rather than just hearing on the news or whatever. That's what it gets to. That's the control it gets to. That's some of the things they want, like to Steve's point about electric cars. You know, I personally have a problem with electric car in general. I have a problem with who's pushing it, what they're pushing, things like that. What they want to put in there, and the kill switches they want to put in our cars. A central bank digital currency is a kill switch for your bank account. It's a kill switch for your livelihood. We saw what Justin Trudeau did up in Canada with the truckers, right? He froze their accounts because they were protesting a right that here in America we have. Canada doesn't actually have freedom of speech. I don't know if you've ever read their constitution, it's crap, but pardon my language, but it is. So, you know, I wholeheartedly believe in states' rights. You know, the states created the federal government, not the other way around. And if they want to create something that is going to violate our states' rights, then I'm going to have to push back against that. Now, I'm one person, I understand that. But one of the things that I got good at in the Air Force is part of my time I worked as a recruiter. And I had to learn how to talk to people, I had to learn how to understand their need behind the need, and how to understand how to convince people sometimes, as you can imagine, convincing a young person or their mother, typically, to let them join the military is not the easiest thing. But on a lot of these things that we see in the legislature, you can get one or two people to come over to the right side of things. You know, that makes all the difference in passing a bill. It makes all the difference in protecting your freedoms, protecting your money from overreach of the government. As I said before, the government's role is to protect your freedoms, not to pervert them.
Thank you. Okay, at this point, we're gonna wrap things up here. We're gonna do something a little different. We're not gonna need a timer on this, because for an answer, I just want one word. Okay, we're gonna start with you, Mr. Carbone. Will you pledge, here and now, your life, your fortune, and your sacred honor to the restoration of this once great republic? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We get one more round of applause for our candidate. In closing, we're going to take the same order again. You've got 2 minutes on the clock for your closing statement. Mr. Carbone, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm running for re-election for LD 25. Not because I want to, because I think I need to. It's not an easy gig. We're losing our country, we're losing our state. I can't keep, it's not like when I moved here 10 years ago, I ran away because I wanted quality life, and I want to keep that for here for my kids, and everyone's giving that back. So I'm giving back. You know, I talk to my grandma, she's in nursing care, and I don't get to see her often, and she always talks, she likes to cite the Bible all the time, and she talks about everything's backwards and that, and she always cites Revelations. And I'll tell you though, everything is backwards. It's scary. I talk about my kids. And so when I say and I commit to rerunning, because I've had questions, but I'm more committed than ever in the first 2 years that I just served to come back and fight hard. You need leaders. We lack leaders. I am a leader. I fought. I'll take the bullets. I'll take the hits to fight for what is right. I've done it. It ain't easy. It sucks. And when people ask me about this job, and I tell them, you know what the hardest part of this job is? Coming back and facing you all. You hope you get the love. You want to get that. Not that you need the approval. But there's a small voice out there, and I'm saying this because it's true. And that's the energy that makes me want to run again. Because that small voice ain't winning. I won these 2 years. I sacrificed and gave. Just like people said today when I walked in, they heard this speech 2 days ago. That was no act. That was real. When I say I will die, I will fight just like this gentleman here who served, and all of you folks in this room that served, both of them. I think all of us are great candidates. But we need leaders. I ask for your vote, your support to get reelected. Thank you.
Mr. Tucker, floor is yours.
As we talked about, I have proven over the past 20 years that all I want to do is serve. I've sacrificed a lot of times my family's happiness, my own happiness, our ease of life. We've sacrificed a lot, and you know, in my retirement, I'm 39 years old, I'm retired, right? But in my partial retirement, you know, I could take a lot more time for my children, I could take a lot more time for my wife, I could take a lot more time for myself. If I wanted to be selfish, I could go live in the woods, let the world burn around me, but that's not what we're called to do. We're called to serve, we're called to go forth and do, and that is what I intend to do. That's what I've been doing my entire adult life, and I don't plan on stopping now. This is just changing where I'm serving. You all matter to me. America matters to me. This state matters to me. We have 4 candidates in this race. Obviously, one is not here tonight. I can speak to the 2 gentlemen that are up here, and I think from our answers, you see there's a lot of similarities. I think there's a lot of heart here, right? What I would say is, in the Air Force, our first core value is integrity, and that's something I take extremely seriously. We've all seen a lot of candidates over our lives, and I would say probably the majority don't seem to have that much integrity once they get somewhere. I'm not speaking about these men, I like these gentlemen here. But it's something where I would say, look at the history of who is running. Look into our backgrounds. Look into my background, please. Know who you're voting for before you vote for the 2 of us who you want to represent you. There are 2 votes you're going to get. You pick the best 2 that you think. These are your votes. Don't let someone steal these votes from you. Lord knows people are going to try to steal your vote. So vote for the best 2 of us you can. I'm hoping for your vote. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Mr. Mark, floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Believe me, I never thought I'd be sitting up here running for this position in Arizona. I'm retired. I had a career of 40+ years. I worked in the field as a construction worker, sat on the buckets and ate my lunch with the rest of the fellas. I've owned businesses, built businesses, and it's not easy. I have a proven record. In this state, in the Second Amendment to the Constitution, it says, we the people inherently have all the power, and our governments get their just powers from the consent of the governed, and are established to maintain and protect individual rights. That is how I will take your voice to the legislature and the House of Representatives. This isn't about me. I want to represent you. I will be connected. I will be the most connected representative you have ever known in LD 25. I live in Buckeye, I live in Sun City Festival, and I will be down here as often as it is required. If you want me here, I'll be here. I have time. My family's raised. This is a full-time job for me, and I don't need the money. I'm doing something that is different. I'm passionate about it. I love this country, and I love this state, and I will do my best to take your voice to the capital of Arizona. Thank you.
I just want to take a minute to thank these 3 gentlemen up here for the commitment and joining this race and doing this for us as the Tea Party for putting this event together. It's important for all of us voters to do this. This is what it's about. We need to get together, talk to our candidates, figure out who they are so we can make the best informed decision that we can for our country. So thank you again to these candidates. If we get one last round of applause.
Chris. Thank you very much. We hope we're Okay, all you ladies and gentlemen that had your that signed up, please turn in your email strips to my wife Carla. Welcome, you are now members of the Colorado River Tea Party. Now, my own take. These 3 guys have come to Yuma at our block party from the very beginning. And I tell you what, they engage with the crowd, they engage with the citizens of Yuma. I can personally, I believe in my heart, they don't live in Yuma. What makes you think that they're going to come down here and represent Yuma? There's a lot of people that aren't from Yuma that represent Yuma.